From here on out, every foul is flagrant, boy. Let's go. What's up? Came in a chokehold, more balls than Esco. All right, maybe
you are now tuned into the chat room, your favorite baller's favorite podcast.
Welcome back to the Chatroom Podcast. I am the Senator, and this is episode number 10. We have made it to episode 10 on season 2. Can you believe that, fellas?
Hey, we're here.
Easy.
We're here.
Yeah.
We're here. We're here.
We made it.
I don't know about made it, but we're here, man.
We made it to a point, but we can always make it bigger.
That's what I mean.
To a point, yeah.
So as you guys can already tell, we got Fanfare in the building.
What's going on?
We also got Coach in the building.
What to do?
And on this episode, the best way to kind of put it is we are honored to have two really great guests that are about to come on to really discuss something that needs to be discussed within our culture a lot more. And we're going to be talking about some mental health stuff and a lot more stuff coming with that. So first we got Naomi.
Yes, hello.
And we also got Baz.
Hey.
Ladies, thank you very much for joining us today. And we are hoping that we can keep the conversation fun, but at the same time, very educational. So
let's go.
Let's jump into the first thing. So COVID has been a battle for everyone, and everyone's been dealing with it and going through it in their own ways. And we know like mental health is a big thing, especially during this time. But if you could live anywhere in the world rent-free for a year, where would you go?
That's tough. I mean, I'll say this out the gate. You know, it's All-Star Sunday, but I would not want to live in Atlanta. So I'll say that out the gate. That's where I would not want to live. But especially
so you're gonna choose Florida?
Nah. None of the us. Nah, I'll pass. Georgia, Atlanta, Florida. Nah, I'm good.
So Texas.
Yeah. No, Texas either. No.
You said none of the odds. You didn't say nothing about Texas. So
all right, well, that's another amendment, I guess. But
right.
where I want to live, I mean, I love Canada. So I love Canada, but I think anywhere else would probably be like New York. I don't know. Jamaica. I don't know. Somewhere where it's fun and exciting. So one of those two places.
Oh, so Queens.
I'm not trying to get beat up a lot, so.
But you wanted to go to Jamaica, New York. So
no, not Jamaica ass, man. No, not Jamaica ass, man. Nah.
Right, just gotta make sure. I gotta make sure.
No, I'm trying to go. Yeah, one of those two places. But where I'm at is good. But yeah, one of those two places.
Okay, ladies,
what about you guys?
Well, I have a question. Is this with COVID like happening, or is COVID like not a thing in this situation?
That's a good question.
That's a big question.
That's a valid question. Yeah.
Let's say this is post-COVID and everybody is safe now, and we're dealing post-COVID, and now we're just worrying about the mad bird disease and the mad cow disease comes out.
Oh my goodness.
So that's a whole nother thing.
Okay, so then I think I know what I would say. It would be between New York or the south of France. The reason I say south of France is because it's probably one of my favorite places in the world, and you also still have like access to like the sun, the beach, but you still have like I guess the cultural aspect, like the fashion and all that. So it's still a city with a beach. Yeah, because I can't see myself like going to the States other than New York right now. Yeah.
Agreed.
Makes sense.
Agreed. I mean, like I thought about California, but I don't know. Yeah.
I actually think I would stay away from the States completely. Like after everything that's gone on in the last 4 years,
That's valid. Yeah.
I'm gonna need another at least 2 to 4 years before I feel like re-entering the United States of America for anything other than like NBA purposes. But I actually think I would either live in Jamaica or in Grenada for the year. But I love Canada, so I would never permanently stay there. But if I could go for a year and work remotely, I think it would have to be one of those 2 places.
Makes sense. Dewayne.
People that know me, I probably the first place I probably go to is I'd probably live in Japan. I love the culture. I love I'm probably going to be the only one of out of the people in this group. I'll be the first one to have a robot that like serves me my food and does my clothes and everything like that. So I'll have like a robot servant. Like I love the technology is advanced out there. I'm probably gonna have a robot for myself. So I'll be the first.
Some people don't take advice from Will Smith. Dave. You saw iRobot, man. I ain't trying to have one of those.
Hey, man. What's the other one? Big Hero 6? Is that the one where
the kids one?
The kids movie,
Yeah,
That's all it is, Hero 6? Okay.
Yeah. As for me, I think I'd want to go somewhere that I've never been to before. I think like I would want to be able to go somewhere where I could actually like spend the year doing adventures and stuff like that.
So Saskatchewan.
No, I've been to Saskatchewan. I've been to Saskatchewan. So my place would probably be Bali. Or Bali, whichever way you want to pronounce it.
Bali.
Just because I think
not that expensive
it's not that expensive, but from the people that I know that's gone there and told me that they've been there for like 2 weeks, they said that's not even enough time to really see the whole culture and everything like that, right? So that would be my choice.
For sure, yeah. No, that's a good choice. Look at you, man.
I was going to say another reason why, but we have some distinguished guests on this one. So if this was another episode, it would have been a different answer.
Oh my goodness.
So just a quick question for everyone. We've all traveled at some point. We've all been on an airplane. What's your favorite seat on the airplane?
Business class.
Come on, business class.
Whoa. Rich folks.
Come on, guy. Come on.
I've never been in business class before. It was good. So business class for me in the front of the plane, like the direct front, because there's lots of leg room.
Well, okay. So my answer would kind of be like that because like I like the emergency exit by the window.
Yeah.
That's where I sit. Emergency exit by the window because once I'm like anyone who's traveled with me know that like I don't get up. So like once I'm in my seat, I don't want to get up. I don't want to move. I don't want to do nothing because for one, I have a partial fear of heights, and for two, I just don't want to move anywhere. So
I got a follow-up question to you, Coach. Though.
Okay. So oh my God. Okay, so by the window for one, and then leg room in the fire exit. So
okay, ladies, before you guys tell me your seat, my question to you is: I know you lie to them when they ask you those questions. Like,
I do.
Do you know the rules? Do you know what happens if something was to happen? Like you're out there just.
Well, like yes and no, like because like I guess the thought process or the hope is that like you're like the last person off the plane, or like like you're showing like all that stuff. Like I don't listen to that. I just have my headphones in, whatever. But
he's gonna jump off the plane and be the first person to encourage everyone. You guys follow me.
Come on, follow me. Yeah, that's gonna be me. Come on, follow me. This way, guys. This way. No, I'm lying. If it's water there, I'll be the last person there.
Facts.
Can't swim.
Ladies.
Honestly, that's usually like if you can't get business, that's the closest thing you can get to business class is all that leg room. I always do window seat though, because I'm the same where like once I'm sitting, I'm not getting up. And the last thing I want is to be sleeping and someone like waking me up in the middle of the sleep, because it took me a lot to get into
fall asleep.
Situation right now. So yeah, that would probably be it. So window seat, if not by the exit. But I didn't know you had to be the last one off.
They don't like.
Because I'm not doing that.
Yeah, me either. Like they don't like once they do that, like they give you the instructions or whatever, like the rules, whatever. Like they don't say you have to do it, but like everything that I've looked online and everything.
Well, no, they tell you. You're just not listening. They tell you. They say your role is to open the window, and open the door, and make sure everyone gets off. Which means you have to be that last person to make sure that everyone gets off, and then,
So, I mean,
that's a lot of responsibility being an emergency exit. Just so you know.
I mean,
all right.
I actually had a story where I got actually bumped from like just regular to business or first class, and it was amazing. So I will always say first class because the leg room is literally ridiculous.
Yeah,
like they're giving me like endless drinks. I was like, wait, I don't have to pay for this. They're like, no. They're like, do you want this moist towelette? And I was like, this is a real thing. Like, I saw it on movies, but that was it. And if not, I do not sleep on plane rides. I can't sleep in car rides. I'm the type of person, like, I need to see everything. So I also like the window seat because I actually I love the takeoff and the landing. I love watching everything. That's my favorite part. So window seats or first class.
So I'll agree with you guys about business class. I got bumped up. I got bumped up once, but it was on a short trip from Saskatchewan to Calgary. So I only got to enjoy it for like an hour, but I made full usage of all the unlimited alcohol that I could have. So that was a thing. But I think they also felt sorry for me because I was in the middle seat between two larger people and did not have any elbow room. I couldn't even put my elbow onto so it's either that or as close to the front door, as close to the to exit, because I hate being at the back of the plane and then you got to wait for everybody else to exit before you can get off the plane. So those are my two.
I will say that I'm clearly not living life because everyone on the podcast, I've never been in first class, so I'm not living life. So my next visit, wherever I'm going, I'm going.
Just take a trip to Edmonton.
Edmonton. That's what I'm doing.
Mine was in Canada too, so that's when they bumped me up. So you just gotta fly within Canada, and you're good.
Then mine to Puerto Rico.
Get into this. Puerto Rico.
Okay.
Come on, man.
Okay.
What is going on? Puerto Rico first class. This is a fanfare I never knew.
This is why sometimes we don't allow him on the podcast, just because he tries to outdo us all one by one. All right, so last one for the roundtable, and then we're gonna get into kind of the getting to know our guests more segments. What is your ideal vacation spot? So we've talked about where you would live for a year and your favorite seat on a plane, but for a 1 week vacation, where's your ideal vacation spot?
Start with the ladies first on this one.
Okay, I'm actually going to piggyback off of Francis. Is that did I say your name? Right?
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But like, wait, no, maybe that's the wrong person. I'm so sorry. Up top.
So,
fanfare.
Fanfare.
Okay, there you go. Fanfare.
Fanfare. Sorry.
Francis, you said Canada. She's not piggybacking off of your.
I said Jamaica earlier. I said Jamaica earlier. Man.
No, I know. But if I'm gonna live in Jamaica for a year, I can't. I don't want to visit there for a week too. I love Japan. I love the culture. I've always wanted to experience it. But the other thing is, I don't want to live there for a long time because I have a really hard time adjusting to timelines. So I feel like I would just like try to bang it out all in 1 week, see as much as I could, and then come home and try to regroup. But I think it would be amazing because they have so many different things. I'm really into like the anime scene and stuff. I love their anime.
Me too. I'm a junkie.
Yeah, and like I used to watch all the cartoons, all the Dragon Ball Z's. So I just feel like it would be so amazing to go there and experience everything.
I just want to say,
Sailor Moon.
the greatest one ever. But I just want to say, fanfare, I'm glad you're on this episode because you said you're a junkie and we have some people here that support mental health situations. So I think it will work out for you. Don't worry, we got you. We got you.
Oh, look at this. With the quips.
That's some ammo for the next few podcasts.
It's funny you say Japan because I went to Japan for a week and I was like, yeah, it's fun. It's enough time. So I had to go back like that. Yep. Literally what it was. So in theory, it's great, but there's just so much to do there. But where I would go, honestly, it would probably be either Bali. That's definitely somewhere I've wanted to go, or Greece. I just like it just looks so, and I love Greek food. Like I'm low-key just talking about it right now is making me want to order it. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so either or, just on a beach somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Mine would be Africa. For one, that'd be my number one, and my number two, it's tough because like somewhere like Rome, Italy, Greece, like somewhere out there, just because like anyone who knows me, like I like Roman history and like Greek goddesses and all that stuff, right? Like my daughter's middle name is Athena, based off of that, right? So like, so that's something that like I kind of want to play into a little bit and visit. So yeah, one of those two places. Or 4 places.
You named 4 places.
Yeah, I know. I just want you to I got myself, man. Okay, man.
All right. Dewayne.
For me, just because I've never been, and it's my birthright, Guyana. I've always wanted to go. That's where my parents are from. That's where my family's from. For all I know, I could be for royalty. I don't know. Maybe there's some royalty out there. I don't know.
Royalty, first class flights. What is going on, man?
I definitely want to visit Guyana because I know there's lots to see. They have Kaieteur Falls, one of the largest waterfalls in the world. So, yeah, I definitely want to go visit where my parents are from and my family.
That makes sense.
I'm very tempted right now, but I'm not gonna do it.
For me, yes, don't do it, please. I know where you're going with this. Just don't do this. For me, I'm gonna go with Spain. I said my ideal plan is within like when COVID ends, that might be my first vacation. It's to do a few days in Spain and maybe 1 or 2 days in Ibiza. So that's kind of my ideal vacation spot right now.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay. All right. Well, kind of directing to the ladies and the guests on the podcast. Sorry. How do you guys get started doing the work you guys do? And like, what do you guys enjoy most about that work?
You want to go first? Want me to go?
Go ahead.
Okay, so it's funny because I was just doing a workshop and I was doing the math as I was talking to these young girls. I was like, yeah, so I've been doing this for 7 years. That's crazy. Yeah. But it started off by accident, like a divine accident where we're pressured into going to school right after high school. And I was like, I guess I'm going to do psychology. Like that's interesting to me, I guess. The human mind was always fascinating to me. And I knew I wanted to work with people. But ironically, as I was in school, I hit a wall and I became really, really, really depressed, really, really anxious. And I think a lot of people can identify to that in their early 20s. That's kind of when
definitely
for sure.
Yeah, like mental health kind of manifests itself. So I had to drop out. And I guess what got me through that was educating myself because I came from an African household where mental health is literally crazy talk, spiritual, pray, you're ungrateful, all that. So it really like nothing made sense. Like everything was just confusion. So I just started to read up about it. I started researching. I started, educating myself. And the more I learned, the more I realized I felt more empowered and the more I healed myself and advocated for myself, advocating for the type of therapy I wanted, advocating for, whether or not like, you know, going back to school when I was ready and all that. So it started off very much like on a personal level. And then from that, I started to see people who occupied similar spaces, you know, going to therapy and having a white man as my therapist. It was just a staring competition. You know, I'm thinking like, what's this white man going to tell me about my life? You know, he has nothing to say.
Nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I started to think about that. And then the more I had conversations with my friends, I started to realize, even just from where we grew up in the inner city, PTSD is a real thing, you know, but we're not talking about it like that. We're talking about, you know, people are coping by doing certain drugs or drinking or, you know, going to strip clubs or whatever. But it's like a lot of that is just a coping mechanism because we don't have access to services, you know, so it's all these things. So I started to gain a passion for community work as well as therapy. So I was like, hey, I'm going to become a therapist. So I'm at school, I'm doing my thing. And then I started working at a clinic and I'm like, this is just no offense, a bunch of white people. Like, this is not the people I want to help. You know, I really want to be in the spaces with people that I want to help that look like me, that've been through things like me or like my peers. So I started to find ways to connect with nonprofits through social media, whether it was through my podcast or through workshops that I held. So it just turned into its own thing. And yeah, now I'm here. I would define myself as like a wellness content creator, but I also still want the therapy background. So when the time comes, I can hold representation for people who are Black and brown like me.
That's dope.
That's amazing. Something you said there that was very like profound, like coming from like our background. Like I'm Jamaican, right? And anybody's like any kind of mental health talk in Jamaican household is like foolishness, right? So hearing that is definitely speaks volumes.
Yeah. Okay. I like, it's so funny because my story is kind of similar, has a little bit of another layer to it, but very like, it's very similar in terms of like my household. It's, you don't talk about it. Like, I'm Jamaican, German, and Irish. And I argue you put like three of the angriest people together and you just like, just like, yeah, fine, whatever, like it's all good, right? And so like, I kind of grew up not only just being in a household and ironically being the most sensitive of all my siblings, but I also grew up as an athlete and I played basketball my entire life. I played basketball for 17 years. I was the point guard in college and then I went on to university and everything was really great. I was doing really well. I was thriving. And, you know, I think being an athlete is very interesting because this idea of like mental toughness comes in, right? Like you've got to be mentally tough, like you got to be strong. So on top of the cultural sort of stigma, then you have on top of this, well, now you're like a Black athlete, you know what I mean? So not only do you need to be strong in household, you need to be strong on the court. So it got to the point where I became such a perfectionist in my third year of university that I was not performing optimally. Like I wasn't performing the way I wanted to. I could do anything in practice, like pull up threes, take anybody off the dribble. Like I had no problems. And then all of a sudden I get to the court and I'm freezing. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? Like I really didn't understand at the time. And again, like all through this, not even realizing I had depression and anxiety, like it was just like a whole nother layer. And then in my third year of university, I take this sports psychology course and like, I find out like, oh, there's actually something I can do about the fact that I have, like, I'm a maladaptive perfectionist is what we call it, because you can have adaptive perfectionism or maladaptive. It doesn't always necessarily need to be a bad thing. And so in my third year, I'm like, why do we not know about this? Like, why don't more people know about the fact that there are what we now call mental skills that you can utilize, right, to benefit your performance and overall well-being? So that was really where it kind of jumped off for me. Then I decided to do my master's. So I have my master's in sports psychology. And I just really wanted to provide people with the tools, not only to be able to perform optimally, but again, just be able to recognize that, hey, like if this is something that's occurring, it doesn't necessarily need to be this way. And if you look at a lot of sports psychologists, or we call ourselves MPCs, again, kind of like Basma, did I say, I'm so sorry if can I just call you Baz? Because
yeah, that's what
okay. Yeah, okay. Like kind of like Baz was saying, it's like everybody that I was speaking to was completely white. They're all males. They're all like middle-aged. Some of them are very old, like very progressing out of the field. And there's all this new information. There's all these new things coming. And I was just like, no, we need to start one, younger. We need to normalize this whole discussion, not only around, mental health, but also just around like performance, and that you don't always have to be tough in order to be effective. Like people perform all the time. Like you could be going home, you could be in your room, you could be crying, and you could go outside and you could still show up. You know what I mean? And you can still perform, and then you can go back home, you can go back in your room, and you can cry. You know what I mean? So for me, it was just not only the layer of being cultured, but also the layer of being an athlete on top of that. I feel like it was just so much, and I just needed to spread as much of my message and that information as I could.
That's dope. Awesome. I think one of the great thing about listening to both of you guys' stories is just the impact that cultural household has when it comes to how you're brought up, and seeing you guys both came from two different types of life, but still had so much similarities when it comes to what brought you to doing what you're doing at the current moment. So I think that's really dope.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, kind of playing off of like what you kind of said, like with athletes and stuff. Like, what do you think? Like, what do you guys think are some of the common struggles, I guess, that like athletes or like inner city youth kind of deal with the most? Like, what are like the most common things that you think?
Okay, I'm just gonna quickly take this one. So
yeah,
I grew up playing sports, but I would say my direct, just looking at that question, I dated my two only boyfriends were professional athletes. And then my close friends also played professionally. So kind of taking that observer like perspective of seeing that culture and that environment really showed me insight to this. It's literally a toxic culture. Like I would always say it is the definition of toxic masculinity, at least for men, of like this toughness, this, hyper masculinity, not showing emotion, or emotion is weakness, not discussing anything, and then just using your career as also your definition of self and the only way to cope with emotion. So once, God forbid you get injured, your identity is gone, your coping mechanism is gone, your everything is gone. So now it becomes a very slippery slope for your mental. So just from the outside looking in and, being that, I guess, that observer of people that I cared about go through those things, I realized a lot of this environment, a lot of the things that are reproduced in those spaces are actually very harmful. Everything down to even just the coping mechanisms. So that's just being from like the outside looking in, and what it's kind of taught. Because if you think about it, I used to say this all the time. Young boys look at athletes as their superheroes, right? They're modern.
Sure, 1,000%.
Yeah. Like, I'm looking at you crazy, he's a superhero. Sure. So everyone's trying to be like LeBron, but they're emulating the same lifestyle, but not everyone has the tools, the ability to do so, because once you get to that level, you're going to have therapists and, hopefully you'll have an education, but it takes a lot to get there. And, everything down to coaching and, your support system
and luck is a big part of that too,
let's not forget genetics,
all that for sure. And like something you kind of mentioned, like, which is big, like I've like coaching college ball, like some of the things that I tell the athletes a lot is like, you are not a basketball player. You are somebody who is highly skilled, highly athletic, that plays basketball. But once basketball is done, like don't like stick yourself onto, like I'm playing college basketball, I'm 4-time champion, yada yada yada. After that's done, what do you have, right? So like that's one of the big things, and you kind of spoke on that, and like I'm glad that you did, because now hopefully the guys are watching this, they see that coach is not crazy, and I've been saying this for a long time. Like, have a plan after basketball. Like, you know, like you're not only a basketball player, you're an athlete, you're a black male, whatever you are that happens to play the sport and be really good at the sport, but it's not all you are, right? So
I just want to say one thing. I just want to say one thing to that, and I wanted to kind of just expand this more from just athlete to individuals. So as a person that used to rap and DJ and stuff like that, a lot of times you make your persona that. So whatever your rap name was, that whatever image you're trying to portray, that's what you think that you have to be. And that's not exactly who you are. Who you are is that person that you are 24 hours a day, and not the 1 hour that you might be on stage, or the 2 hours that people are seeing you at a video shoot or something like that. So this, even though that advice was perfect for athletes, I just want to make sure that we are expanding it for everybody too, and just letting people know that you got to be the best you and know who you are, and not just the persona that you're trying to become.
Yep.
Yeah, I completely agree. To add on to that too, like I wrote some stuff down because I was like, well, are we talking about pre-COVID? Because I feel like when with my specific domain, there's very specific skills that I feel like athletes struggle with. But post-COVID, everyone is experiencing anxiety, whether it was there or not there from before. Athletes are very good at sort of like mitigating their like symptoms because they're so immersed in their exercise. So it's really just like, oh, I'm just going to practice all the time. They're so, you know what I mean? It's kind of like their drug, you know, like how some people turn to alcohol, you know what I mean? Like some people turn to substance abuse, period. Other people, they become athletes. Like they just, and you'll hear this a lot from people who like inner city kids who actually do make it, you know, like they didn't come from a good situation. So their outlet was their sport. And that's amazing. But now that it's kind of come to a halt and it stopped, everybody's now dealing with the repercussions of whatever they've been kind of sweeping under the rug this whole time. Right. And again, this is not to generalize and say everybody has like generalized anxiety or things like that. But that's to say that we're in such an uncertain time right now that not only is the athlete or the performer or your overall identity kind of in crisis right now, but just from an anxiety standpoint of us not being able to sit down with our thoughts for too long, or us not having enough time to really, you know, sit down and think like, how did my day go today? What do I most need? Like, what am I struggling with right now? We don't give ourselves the opportunity to do those things, no matter what position or, you know, performer you are, right? Whether you're performing at work, whether you're performing as an athlete. And also we're seeing a lot of lack of motivation, which again, like anxiety paired with lack of motivation, and people aren't sleeping, you know, like anxiety and depression are kind of really going high right now. Like it's getting really, really bad, I would say.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Okay, so I mean, fear of failure is something that like a lot of athletes kind of deal with. Like a big skill. Like I know on the college level for sure, like not being what you think that you should be is a big thing, and it's a big struggle. What are some ways that like one can kind of mitigate or reduce kind of those attacks and those fears?
Is it okay if I start?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. For me, it's really important to recognize what they are. Okay. This is fear. This is not an actual physical property that's blocking your way. It's something mental. Right. And so first and foremost, I want to know what those fears are. Okay. Then I want you to understand that if you're not experiencing failure, there's no way you're getting better. There is absolutely no way you're getting better at what you're doing. You might be coasting, you know, you might be like performing at some level where you're like, okay, everything's good. But I argue that if you're not like deep diving into that fear, if you're not deep diving into failure, then there's no way your growth is where you want it to be, no matter what level you're at. And one of my favorite ways, one of my favorite talks, I watched like the Lewis Howes, I don't know if I said his name right, show, but one time he had Kobe Bryant on, who is like my mental like idol. Like I don't think anybody could have had a more amazing like mentality than Kobe. And he literally asked him like, doesn't it suck to fail? Like, don't you hate it? And he's like, of course I hate it. But, you know, as soon as I recognize that I've lost, now I recognize, oh, here are some weaknesses I can exploit for next time. Or here are some things that I didn't do from my end that I'm actually going to implement next time, right? And failure teaches you way more than wins will ever do. So it's so important for you to understand and learn from those failures and not necessarily always see them. And in psychology, we talk a lot about reframing failure so that it's not seen as failure. It's, you know, a challenge or it's growth or it's opportunity. So kind of those three things in terms of like recognizing that they're just fears, accepting it as part of your process, and then reframing the way that you're seeing the fear is a lot of what I do with my athletes.
That's smart.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. Honestly, similar, like I would say similarly as Naomi was saying, when it comes to fear, and this could apply to athletes or just anyone, I would say not living scared. I think when you live scared, you live small. And that inhibits your true potential. I think those who aren't afraid of failure tend to be the most successful. You ask a successful person, I think the average successful person will say, I wasn't scared to fail, you know? And I think it's that whole mindset of reframing, and also literally that quote of, you learn more from quote unquote failure than you will ever learn from winning, you know? So to truly become your best self, you must fail. Like that's a must. So really looking at it in that way and saying, okay, well, if I want to be the best, then I have to fail at some point in this journey. Then you will face it head on. You will face it in a way that isn't scared. And I almost feel like we see fear and we want to run from it. You know, it's our instinct, you know, that's just something we're taught. But at the same time, the best way to face anxiety or fear is to actually literally face it, you know, put yourself in those uncomfortable situations. Then you minimize the power that it actually has. So once you face failure once, you realize, okay, this is it's not that bad, and I can bounce back from it. So you end up becoming more confident in those
resilient.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon?
I said you end up becoming resilient.
Yeah, resilient, and that's literally the key to success.
That's amazing.
That makes sense.
I agree.
I had to face my fear last summer going rafting in Calgary, and I don't swim, so I don't like water. And I had a torn Achilles, so I was in a cast. So it was a lot of fears that I had to do at that same time. But, you know, I did it. The cast didn't get wet, so, you know, I'm good.
You're a regular Paul Bunyan.
Oh my God.
Wow.
All right. So what are some important skills to have when dealing with mental health?
Okay. I will say when it comes to your mental health or any type of, so I look at the mind like a muscle. So it's something you constantly have to work at. I don't think it'll ever be perfect. And it's something that is part of your routine, your day-to-day. Something that I've been using a lot more is mental hygiene, you know, so making sure you're taking care and staying on top of that so that it's more preventative versus dealing with like anxiety and depression when you stay on top of it. So I would say in terms of skills, I would say probably just making sure you tending to a holistic aspect of your health. So making sure, you know, you have healthy routines in place, balance, you know, support system, therapy. When I say therapy, I think what's important when I say this is therapy is not always what we think of someone on a couch, you know, talking to us. Therapy could be literally going to the barbershop, could be playing ball, It could be, you know, calling up a close friend. So having that outlet that is healthy, a coping mechanism that is healthy. And I think even just educating yourself, you become empowered. So, you know, like I said, that was a big source of my confidence. I didn't understand myself. So I went and I educated myself, and that really allowed me to stay healthy and on top of it.
Yeah, that's actually one thing that I found as well. When my family, we all had COVID last year, and yeah, it was really tough on our family. We didn't know anybody that had it. As far as we knew, we were the first people that I knew to get it. So it was really tough for at least 5 weeks when we were in the house, couldn't go nowhere, and we didn't really understand COVID. Nobody had any questions or nobody had any answers for us. Once I was able to kind of go back outside, I was still kind of down. My mind was murky, and what I was doing was I was just going to the lake. Something that simple. I was going to the lake at night, just sitting, watching the water in the moonlight, and it made me feel at ease. So I didn't realize it was that becoming therapeutic for me. But as you said, they just something like going to the barbershop, something innocuous. Something as innocuous as going to the lake really helped me through those times. So I definitely agree with that.
It's like getting a small peace of mind. Like I remember living in Toronto, and anytime I get like really upset, I know if I go for an hour drive, by the time I come back, I'm good because I'm listening to something that calms me down. I'm by myself. I'm getting the time. If I was going to continue to be angry, I'm getting angry while I'm there, but I'm letting it out while I'm driving. And then by the time I get back, I'm so calm. So because it's like I took myself completely out of what is causing me to be so upset at the time. And then I'm taking that moment to really reflect, like, was it even worth me getting upset at that? Like, is that really worth allowing somebody to have that power to set you off to that point where you can't control your own anger? So I totally understand. I totally agree with everything that everyone just said.
Yeah. I think for me, the biggest thing on top of that is awareness, because without awareness, you don't even know what is your peace of mind. You don't know when your mental health or when your mental state is actually good or bad. And ironically, I literally had a huge conversation there's a group of my colleagues, we're all together, and this is literally what we're talking about. And we love to use the analogy of like the traffic light, right? In terms of your mental health, like green is good, everything's go. Yellow is, like kind of murky, we're getting there. And then red is really just like, whoa, we need to stop. Like, this is not it, like crisis. And so it was so amazing to have that conversation, because as athletes, like just bringing it back to this, and as most people in society, I would say people don't even know like the 1 to 5, you know what I mean? Like from green to yellow, you don't even know how you got there. You're just like, oh, everything was fine. And then something happens, or, someone messes up your day or says something to you. And all of a sudden you're like, I'm mad. You know what I mean? Like, I got to leave. But you're not even necessarily recognizing all the time what's actually causing you to actually feel that way. Right? You're just kind of like, okay, I know this is what I do. I know this is my peace of mind. This is where I go, whether it's the lake. For me, it's literally hanging out with my dog. You know what I mean? Like it can be whatever you want it to be, but it really starts with awareness, because like all the mental skills are helpful. And like, when I was trying to think of the question, I was like, I gotta say all of them. But if I had to pick one, like you need to be aware first and foremost, and then everything follows. And then you can start to figure out what works for you and what you need more balance of. And, like we're talking about the mental hygiene, like, do I need to take a break from social media? You know what I mean? Do I need to stay away from that friend that's just being really toxic or not trying to hear my concerns right now because they don't, approach me in the way that I need them to? Like that really starts with awareness for me, first and foremost.
Yeah, that's facts. I mean, like kind of something you said kind of like rang home with me. Like part of that is just the PTSD, like something happening to you and you just being so receptive to it, like just not receptive, reactive to it, it's just something that kind of just innate, is just in you because of how you were raised, or the environment you were raised in, and that's something that, like, for sure, like myself, like inner city athletes, just inner city people in general, like they go through that every day, like every day, especially like, like I'm from Galloway and Scarborough, like Jamaica, New York, like everywhere has that kind of thing. But that PTSD is very, very real, and not knowing how you got somewhere is a big thing. Like I talk to a lot of people all the time, and they're like, "Yo, I was here at one point, I got mad, and this happened," and they don't know like how to connect that piece. Like even in my day-to-day life, like when I'm at work and with the kids and stuff, like they're so reactive because they don't know how to kind of be aware of, okay, this is what's going on, this is how I'm feeling, this is where I am, and this is how I can best kind of react to this to make a good choice, So yeah.
I want to say something so quickly, because as you're talking, I'm thinking like that's just part of our culture.
Yeah.
You know 100%. What I mean? Like I literally used to listen to my parents say like, like stop crying or else I'm going to give you something to cry for. You know what I mean? Like, so all you're learning about.
Hey, your mom and my mom was the same. Same mom?
No, actually, it was my dad. It was my dad.
Oh, okay.
So your dad is my mom.
Mom, dad, everybody. Same thing.
My dad's from Jamaica, so they might have been, in the same area at the time. But it's really just like, it's what they hear, it's what they learn. And on top of that, like we've all sort of identified, they don't even know how to handle a mental health crisis. They don't even know how to deal with, because that would require them to kind of be aware and to say, you know what, like, am I actually helping my child right now by like telling them that if they have a mental health concern, like they should just go in their room, or I'm just going to beat them, because as research continues to show, like PTSD, you can literally get PTSD from being beaten as a child. You know what I mean? Sure. So it's just like, there's so many things, and you're like beating your kid, you're sending them to their room to deal with all of this stuff. And then you don't learn, right? You don't learn as an adult, as you get into adulthood, how to even build any sort of awareness anyways. You know what I mean? Like it just becomes a vicious cycle.
It's continuing to pass on traumatic experiences that they dealt with, so they can only recognize what they've dealt with, and then it's moving on. And I think one of the good things about what we're facing and what we're seeing more in this generation and for the future generations is the fact that we're starting to recognize that is what is happening, and they're slowly trying to break the cycle. And one of the things that I can be proud about with working with and previously working with children out here is the fact that they were starting to promote the whole fact of social emotional learning, which is a very important thing, because it takes it away from just them understanding that there's only 4 or 5 major emotions, but really there's 400 emotions that they don't even know how to identify. And getting them to identify, going back to your awareness, getting them to identify what they actually are feeling. Because they might be angry, but that anger could just come from hunger. So now you're understanding the root of it. Now you're starting to break down that's the emotion you're facing is not anger, it's hunger. Now you know that. Now let's build on that. And that, I think these are the stuff that is going to start helping the next generation, because we are really trying, a lot of people are really trying to promote the fact of social emotional learning.
Sure.
Yeah.
What advice would you guys give to someone who is dealing with or is currently battling depression?
You want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. I'll start. First and foremost, like we've kind of alluded to so much, like please don't let anybody tell you that it's not a big deal. You're fine. You'll get over it. Suck it up. Like all of these things that I hear over and over again that make me cringe. Like if you feel like you need to reach out and talk to somebody, please do it. Okay. Because I think too far and too often do we hear like mental illness is weak, and we don't outwardly say it because everything's pointing towards the opposite of that. But in our cultures, and especially in like, honestly, even like the Asian, like I have a lot of Asian friends who grew up very similarly. I feel like cultures outside of North America tend to kind of frown upon like mental illness, not necessarily mental health, because it's not the same thing, but mental illness is like an issue. You'll get over it. I dealt with it. like we talked about that generational, like, well, it happened to me, so it, like, and look, I'm still here, so you'll get over it. I don't like that. The other thing is that I think it's actually really courageous and strong to be able to persevere and push through and be resilient despite dealing with a mental health concern. So if you do have a mental illness, it is not some form of like, now I'm a weak person, this is me being weak, what's wrong with me? It's actually very strong to be able to constantly be in fear of something and do it anyways, to constantly be worried about, you know what I mean? What are people going to think of me? And still go out and, you know, do that podcast or, you know, perform at your best level. Like, I think that is amazing. And just the last thing that I want to say, because this is also something that's huge for me, is please, when you're trying to reach out to somebody, if it's not a professional, please reach out to somebody who is emotionally available. Like we kind of talked about, your parents might not be the person to go to say, hey, you know what? I think I'm struggling with depression, or I'm depressed right now, or I'm experiencing a lot of anxiety. I think I need to go talk to somebody. Make sure that you kind of ask that person if they are emotionally available, and then proceed to kind of tell them, because you know, vulnerability is amazing, but it shouldn't be shared with everybody. And unfortunately, sometimes that does mean your parents. So those are my kind of pieces of advice.
That is some really good advice right there.
Really good advice.
That's facts. Yeah, that's facts.
That's a drop the mic moment, and then
That's
she's gonna
facts.
walk off. So.
That's
facts, man.
We're gonna go after that. Honestly, I couldn't have said it better myself, and I probably will reiterate a lot of what you just said. Definitely the whole notion or stigma around mental health or mental illness is the biggest obstacle, I think. Asking for help is probably the hardest part, I think, because starting anything is definitely hard, and you have to kind of fight all those like socialization, those social ideals, those norms that we've kind of been conditioned to think. But speaking from someone who's gone through depression, I think anyone who has had depression in some capacity, overcoming that is such a win. Like, it takes a certain level of strength and determination and resilience. So for someone to belittle that, I'm just like, damn, that's wow. Because it's very much like, it's huge. It's a big deal, and it takes a lot of strength and resiliency to do. And unfortunately, when we think of any form of illness or disability, if we can't see it, then it's not real. And it almost takes away that validity to it, but it is valid. And I think even just conversations like this and representation is huge, because I remember my dad telling me, like, yo, being depressed is a white people illness. Like, he literally said that.
Wow. Yeah.
Yes.
So just having representation helps, because now you're able to reach out to people who might look like you, might have a little bit more empathy towards you, and you can connect with, and you might feel more comfortable to talk to them. Because like I said, being vulnerable, a lot of people, like, my biggest thing when it came to therapy was, why would I tell someone who doesn't care about me my deepest, darkest thoughts? Like, that to me did not make sense at all. But I learned that sometimes it's a balance, you know, finding a support system, like Naomi said, that have the capacity to support you, but then getting the tools from the professional to implement into your day-to-day life, right? Like, you don't have to disclose right away, like, these are my thoughts. It's more like, I'm feeling like this. And then from that, here are the tools I can give you. It doesn't necessarily have to be like, I'm feeling this, and this is why I'm feeling like this, and this is what I went through as a child. Like, you are in control, right? So when it comes to a therapist or any clinician, they are there to give you tools, but they're not there to, end of the day, heal you. I think when we think of depression or mental health, we are in full control, and what we do and what we take away from these services is really like what we end up taking away. So if you go to therapy, you only get as much as you take away. So I think a lot of therapists will say, like, you know, I'm not here to heal you or to cure you. I'm just here to give you the services and tools, and you choose to do what you choose to do with these things. So I think that's really important. And I think taking care of all other aspects of your wellness too, right? The mental is important, but like making sure you're moving your body, making sure you're eating, making sure you're sleeping. Sleep is a huge thing that people overlook. Yep. Having a healthy sleep schedule, looking at wellness as a more holistic approach, spirituality, all that. Like, I think understanding that mental health is interconnected to your overall health is important, and looking at it in a more holistic approach too.
Yep. Another drop the mic moment right there. I tell you, this is
yes.
I think all that advice that both of you guys just gave is really important, and I hope that all our listeners who are listening to this actually takes it in and realizes that every day you can do something to work on your mental health. Agreed. So just put a form of practice in, and then start increasing it from there till you are at the better you.
Yep.
So I got one random question for everybody before we get to the final part. This just came to mind while you guys were speaking. So everybody has like a go-to song. What is a song that you find yourself going to, not every day, but you realize that you end up going back and playing that same song maybe every week or every 2 weeks? I know exactly which one my own is, so I'll tell you my own to start it off so you guys have some time to think about it. First would be Her's Damage. I don't know what it is about that song, but that song is just amazing to me. 2 would be Erykah Badu's On and On. And 3 would be...
That's 3?
I have 3.
Damn, man, you're asking for a lot right now, man.
No, you can only give me 1. I'm giving you guys time to think of one.
Whoa, what
I got 2.
No, I want 3.
I got 2.
You have 3?
Damn.
Okay,
I got 3.
If you have 3, then have 3. And then the third one, to tell you the truth, is not even just one song. It's an entire album. It's Snow Allegra Feels.
It's cheating.
So, those are my 3. Those are my 3.
15 songs.
All right, cool. I got 15 go-to songs.
Come on, man. You cheating.
Wow.
Cheating. No. All right. So I got 2 off the bat. My one, not necessarily because of the lyrics of it, just the beat is like something that I can bump in my car, in my radio. It doesn't matter where I bump it. It just kicks.
Annie up, eh?
Nah. Drake Pound Cake. Drake Pound Cake.
Oh, okay.
It don't matter where I hear that song. Once that beat hits, I'm like, okay, I'm in it. Like, it's just, as a former athlete, it's just something that it just clicks in my head. I'm like, wherever I am, I'm ready to go. That's one. And then my other one would be J. Cole, Middle Child. That's my second one.
Oh.
So those are 2.
Good one.
Yeah, those are 2 that no matter where I am, if I hear it, like it just puts me in a zone. I'm just ready to go, and it just turns me up, or turns me up, turns me down. It's just wherever I needed that moment, it gives me that, you know. So yeah, those are 2. I don't have 3 though. Sorry, man.
My bad.
Okay, I can go next. Let me just preface this by saying it does depend on the mood that I'm in. Because I feel like I'm very like multifaceted. I like a lot of different music. Like I love J. Cole. I loved Pop Smoke. Like I actually loved his music, but I'm actually such a big soca head. So here is my top 3 right now. Don't shake your head.
He wants to say something about me. He wants to say something about me. That's what it is. Because I'm Guyanese. He wants to say something about me.
He doesn't like soca. He doesn't like soca at all. So
yeah, he's a hater.
That's fine. You don't have to like what I like, but I'm Jamaican and I like soca. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So number 1 right now, I don't know why, but ever since the Super Bowl, Blinding Lights by The Weeknd has been stuck in my head.
It's stuck.
I can't.
It's stuck.
I can't. I listen to it on repeat
on the radio too.
Yeah.
And Flow 93.5 plays it like all
the time.
10 minutes.
It's one of those songs that are just stuck.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure.
So that's my number 1 song that's stuck in my head right now. Number 2 is Coffee's Toast. I absolutely love that song. My mom got married in Jamaica and that song was just blasting, and it just reminds me of like all the good times.
A good time, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then I love basically anything by Chance the Rapper. Oh my gosh, All Night. His song All Night. I don't know what it is.
I like that song.
I don't know what, like literally word for word, doesn't matter what I'm doing. I could be in the worst mood. I will literally start going nuts. Like that's my favorite song.
You see, with me,
I think it has that upbeat tempo to it. That's the reason why. Like it's kind of has it's not like the Weeknd one, but it's still such a happy song. It's a happy song.
See, but I think for me, it's Chance himself. Like when he says, "Is you or is you ain't got gas?" Like I was like, I am like doing all of that.
in it. It's tough.
He gets me too hyped. So that's like my favorite.
With me, like it's not necessarily about the words to me. Like I rock with the lyrics and stuff, but it's just the vibe or the feel that I get from listening to it. That's what it is for any song. So you saying Toast is just that first dun, 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 like that first part you hear, like, okay, you're like I'm in. Like, it's just certain parts of it's just a vibe for me. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
How about you, Baz?
Okay, so honestly, I feel like it's okay. So I have like my go-to song. They will always be my favorite, and then like I'll always have like a song that's stuck in my mind. So now the current song that's stuck in my mind is "Good Days" by SZA. Like that gets played on loop after loop. I'm like, well, then it came out like today or the day or like yesterday. I'm like, why she gotta do this? But I'm very much like a 90s, early 2000s R&B fan. So one of my favorite songs, not favorite, but one of my favorite is Only You by 112. And I like the remix with, I think it's Biggie. Yeah.
Biggie and Mace.
Yeah, Biggie and Mace. So I love that. Like, I can't help but be happy when I hear that song.
Yeah.
And then I guess my third one, it keeps literally my brain's just like it's changing. It can't make up its mind. I would say probably I want to say Changes by J. Cole. I don't know why that's coming to mind, but like
that's a good one.
It's a good song.
That's a good one.
I love J. Cole. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
For
time
me,
for you to say all three soca songs. There we go.
No, I'm not.
It's gonna be three Nas
it's okay. You can tell me the soca songs. I'm with you.
No.
I love that.
You guys will probably be surprised by the ones I picked. So
I said three Nas tracks. So
listen.
No. It's not gonna listen one Nas.
Climax by Slum Village.
Slum Village. Oh, nice.
Yeah. Slum Village. Okay. I love that song.
Okay.
I don't know if y'all remember this group, Camp Low.
Yeah.
Coolie High.
Yep.
Lucci, Coolie High. That's one of my favorite songs, Coolie High. You need to come inside and check low. Relax yourself and let the
Here we go.
Bars,
man. That's good.
Yo, Funk Flex, drop a bomb on that one right there.
We
got that.
DJ Fan. Here we go, man.
Yeah, those are the songs I always come back to. Love those tracks.
Okay. And that's the best way to end off this episode, but we can't end that off without getting to promote our social medias and anything else that we might be working on, because I know, Bass, you said you have a podcast there. So let's start with you. Why don't you kick it off?
Okay, so yeah, I do have a podcast. You can find me or the podcast at Call Me Crazy Pod. It basically looks at like reclaiming the stigma around mental health and wellness, specifically for the BIPOC community. I always kind of say it's mental health for the culture. So I'm your mental health plug if you guys ever want to connect.
Bars.
And then if you want to see my social media platform, which I'll still have like mental health stuff, but then I'm also low-key a sneakerhead, so I'll post a one.
That's what's up.
At Be For Real. So that's BEEFOREAL. And yeah, hit me up anytime. Thanks for having me.
Dope. No problem.
Thank you.
All ours.
Naomi.
Yeah, I do not have my own podcast. I'm sorry, guys, but
you never know. One day, you never know.
One day, man.
Honestly, it was on my to-do list, and like my to-do list has gotten longer and it's gotten
all right. So this is what we can say. You both are our resident mental health people. So if we ever have more future episodes, we know exactly who we're going to.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, for sure. Instagram. I'm really, really big on Instagram and Twitter. It's just Naomi James. So NaomiJames_MPC. And I post a lot of stuff, obviously related to performance, but I'm a really big believer that everybody can benefit from sports psychology skills. So I post a lot of tips and tricks. So follow me if you like. And yeah, thank you so much for having me.
For sure. Thank you.
Dope.
You for being
Coach.
Good shit. Yeah, my IG is realdeal_Francis. Yeah, they're just starting to open things up here in Alberta, so hopefully we got a season coming up this year. We're allowed to get in the gyms now, so things are looking good. I know Saint FX just had a game the other night, exhibition game, so like it's trending in the right direction that we're gonna have some ball this year. So fingers crossed, and that's all I'm working on. That's it. Oh, merch coming out. Well, merch is out. It's being delivered and stuff as we speak. So yeah, merch.
Dope. Dewayne.
You guys can just follow me on my Instagram. It's Chas CHAS_Tenenbaum TENENBAUM.
Yes, sir. And as for me,
Cabby approved.
Cabby certified.
Cabby certified. Cabby approved.
And as for me, I always tell people I go last because I have the most things to promote. So make sure to follow me on Instagram and Twitter at The Senator. Don't forget to check out the Not So Soft podcast with myself, Nino Rockwell, and Kino the Great. Don't forget to check out my Twitch page, twitch.tv/It's The Senator. I DJ on there every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sundays from 6 to 8 Mountain Time, 8 to 10 Eastern Time. Don't forget to follow the Chatroom Podcast on Instagram at the.chatroompod. Don't forget to like, rate, share, and subscribe to the Chatroom Podcast wherever you listen or watch. So we're on YouTube, we're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Podcast Addict. Anywhere where you can find podcasts, that's where you'll find the Chatroom Podcast. And if you have any questions that you wanted to send out to our guest or even to us, make sure to send it to our email at thechatroompod@gmail.com. So that's it for the plugs for me. But before we end off, once again, want to say thank you very much. It was such an honor to have both of you guys on for this one. I hope you enjoyed your time on this podcast, and hopefully we can have you on further down the line.
Thank you
for sure.
having me.
Yes, it's so fun.
Yep.
Did it.
And this has been the Chatroom Podcast, your favorite baller's favorite podcast. And we are out.
Peace.
Peace.